been a while since I talked about this, but Anna Kasparian is making like a hard right shift at this immediate moment. This is 2 years old, but she was making the shift at this time, and I want to argue that at this point, this video she titled "COVID-19 likely a lab leak in China," claims U.S. Energy Department. It was false. That's not true. It was not leaked from a lab. This is fictitious nonsense that Anna is about to feed into, and she's just going to like lose her mind over it. I want to listen to what she has to say and show where her logical reasoning goes completely off the rails and why I believe she made that rightward shift that she made. Let's start from zero.
There's a report today that another intelligence arm of the U.S. government, this is inside our energy department, has joined the FBI in concluding that COVID began with a lab leak.
No, that's not what happened, first and foremost. Chuck Todd is making a hard right shift too, bizarrely. I didn't actually expect that from Chuck Todd. They didn't conclude that. They said they have low confidence, the same confidence level as the claim that like there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which we know beyond a shadow of a doubt now that there were not. They claimed with very low confidence that it might have come from a lab in Wuhan, China. There's zero evidence for it. Zero. This is not what happened. Until I get evidence to believe it, I'm going to say this isn't what happened.
In China. If we end up determining, if our intelligence community over time determines, this is the majority view, and it's the U.S. government's view, that this was a lab leak in China and that government covered it up, what should be the consequences?
Okay, this is propaganda, what he's laying down. If they decide this is the majority view, well, no one decided that. Why are we even talking about this right now? Because he's trying to convince people that it is decided already. He's creating a conversation that there's no reason to have right now. Chuck Todd is a scumbag, in my personal opinion, at this point. I'm kind of a fan of Don Lemon, honestly, as far as like commentators go. But Chuck Todd is awful.
Now, before we get to Republican Senator Dan Sullivan's answer to Chuck Todd's question, I think it's worth visiting the reporting on the allegations regarding the lab leak and how it might have led to the coronavirus pandemic. This has to do with a new report based on new intelligence by the Energy Department.
No, it's based on the Energy Department releasing a conclusion. It's not new evidence obtained by the Energy Department. Like, why are we even talking about the Energy Department? This is about COVID. Why are we listening to anybody but the NIH in this? Like, why would I give a shit what the FDA or US or the, oh my God, what's it called? Why would I give a shit what the USDA, for example, has to say about it? Manage my meat, make sure Taco Bell isn't giving me grade E meat, and I'll be happy with you. I don't need any info from you about COVID or how it spread. Thank you. Although I guess the USDA could have something to say about COVID. But the point is that the Energy Department has nothing to do with this. It's just complete nonsense.
And while the Energy Department has come out with this conclusion, they say that it is a low confidence conclusion.
There you go. That's the important bit right there. It's a low confidence conclusion. It's irrelevant what they have to say about this. Low confidence conclusion, they have nothing to do with it.
And the intelligence community overall is still divided in regard to where the virus originated from. So here's what we know so far. Some officials briefed on the intelligence said that it was relatively weak, and that the Energy Department's conclusion was made with low confidence, suggesting its level of certainty was not high.
That's all you need to hear right there. That's it. The point is there's no reason to believe this, and until you're given a reason to believe it, the answer is this isn't real. There's no point in even talking about it on air. I'm talking about this because I'm drawing out how absolutely ridiculous, how completely short-circuited Anna's reasoning has become.
While the department shared the information with other agencies, none of them changed their conclusions, officials said. Now, it is important to keep in mind that there is one intelligence agency that tends to agree with the Energy Department here, and that's the FBI. In addition to the Energy Department, the FBI has also concluded with moderate confidence that the virus first emerged accidentally from the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Again, this is not the organization that I would look to for these answers. Like, did they release any studies by scientists at all? Why am I talking to law enforcement about this? Isn't this something that scientists should be evaluating, not law enforcement? Like, what?
A Chinese lab that worked on coronaviruses. We'll get to
it's like asking research and development about order fulfillment, right? Like maybe R&D knows something about order fulfillment, maybe, but I think I'm going to ask order fulfillment about order fulfillment.
The other agencies in just a moment, and we'll also get to Sullivan's answer to Chuck Todd. But Cenk, initial thoughts.
So there are two.
They shouldn't even be talking about this on air because it's pointless. They have no information.
Major things to look out here for. First of all, did it come from a lab leak? Nearly impossible to know.
And why are you talking about it? That's the answer. Impossible to know. There's no reason to trust any of this.
Damn it, Jim, I'm not a virologist.
And neither is the FBI, for the record, and neither is the Department of Energy.
Said that. Did you hear what Anna just read, you guys? It came out of the city that has the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a Chinese lab that worked on coronaviruses.
Yep, it did. You know why the lab was there? Do you know why the lab was in Wuhan, China? Because there's a bat with the coronavirus in the region. It's not a surprise that they would place a lab near where a virus is likely to emerge. Are you serious with this?
Man, that is an awfully large coincidence.
Not a coincidence, very intentional. That's why the lab is there.
And that's what I've thought throughout, that was an awfully large coincidence. Now, in the beginning, people swore up and down that it was natural and not from a lab. We'll get back to that in a second.
Actually, can we address that right now?
Yeah.
Because one thing that's become increasingly clear to me, especially over the last year, is that I don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you shitting me right now? Is this real?
I certainly don't trust reporters because reporters treated this initially as if it was nothing more than a crazy, unhinged conspiracy theory.
It is a crazy, unhinged conspiracy theory today, right now. It is still a conspiracy. And this is 2 years old, this video from TYT.
Yeah.
So who do you trust, right? You can't trust the legacy media outlets because that was their narrative.
Trust people without a narrative, like scientists, for example. This is, in my opinion, the beginning of Anna's full-blown downfall. She just lost the plot completely, and it is so sad to see.
Right-wing media, tends to go in the direction of it was definitely a lab leak, but
like I said, this is a narrative problem. We shouldn't be looking at narratives or whatever. We shouldn't be taking narratives into account. Narratives should have nothing to do with this conversation.
They have their own biases. So what do you trust?
Yeah.
Who do you trust? Even the intelligence community in the United States is divided on this issue. And it's
not really.
Not just about the coronavirus pandemic, guys. It's about every single political issue. I don't know who to trust.
Yeah. So I'm going to make it worse before I make it better.
Okay, go ahead.
So first of all, the main organization that put out a report saying it was definitely from a natural occurrence was the World Health Organization. Normally fairly reputable and trustworthy, except for the fact that in this particular case, China demanded that half the people on the panel be from China. And so it was a very, very questionable finding, but it was reported as if it was legitimate.
Look, I don't care about what the WHO said or whatever. I care about what scientists are concluding. And as far as anybody can tell, scientists have concluded that it is not man-made. I remember this, I remember them discussing this when it first came out, was this man-made? And the conclusion early on was no. Everybody accepted that the answer was no, it was not man-made at the start. And then the right latched onto it as a conspiracy theory because they wanted to blame China and everybody else to start shit with people that they didn't like, basically, and create this propaganda machine.
That's right.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And so that makes it worse. Second of all, you think, well, okay, now it's pretty settled. I mean, you got the Energy Department, your FBI even saying more so.
He says it's settled? What?
That they think it was a lab leak. And come on, the Wuhan virology lab's right there.
Yeah, because why do you think it's there, really? God, I am trying really hard not to insult people. Like, I don't believe in insulting people, but I'm so tempted to say, yeah, dumbass, why do you think they put the lab there in the first place? I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to do that, though, in all seriousness. He's not a dumbass. He's just misinformed.
What are the chances it's not right? Okay, but be careful of the new reports too. Why? Because now all of a sudden you've got Republicans like the one we just showed you in the beginning, and Democrats who are more hawkish and inclined towards neoconservatism coming out saying this is the fault of the Chinese Communist Party. Uh-oh. So remember we've been reporting.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I completely disregard any trash coming out of political commentators' mouths like that and turning it into this big political thing. It's nonsense. Look to scientists, virologists who know the answers. Have virologists revealed that they believe that it's from a lab leak? No, they haven't.
That's right.
About how we're starting to do more warmongering towards China.
Yep.
The Pelosi visit, the arms sales to Taiwan, the Chinese spy balloons, and the
Oh my God, is he building like this conspiracy theory like right in front of our eyes right now?
other rando balloons we shot down as if it was they were Chinese, etc. So now here comes the war drums.
Yep.
So be careful.
Oh, please, dude. Here come the war drums. What war drums? This is 2 years old. He was claiming that COVID was going to cause a war between the United States and China. Are you kidding me with this? Here come the war drums, he says.
Be careful, not just with, hey, what was COVID? Where did it come from? That's very important. We have to track that down scientifically, because for the next virus that comes out, it's critical that we know the truth, the medical scientific truth.
Absolutely.
Behind how it emerged. But it is curious that all of a sudden, our government is starting to say, Democrats and Republicans, and almost all of them neocons, pro-war legislators, coming out and saying, Chinese Communist Party. What does this have to do with communism? What are you guys talking about?
This has nothing
I don't know what the hell Cenk is talking about.
to do with communism whatsoever.
Yeah.
And if there was an accidental lab leak, as you say, Cenk, I think the world deserves to know about it.
Absolutely. Who do you think would inform the world of that? The Energy Department? The FBI? Are you shitting me? Maybe people who study this shit for a living?
Fact that the World Health Organization investigation into this was heavily biased in favor of China is absolutely ridiculous. And
so don't trust the WHO if you think there's bias or something. Trust everybody else.
If I recall correctly, that bias wasn't initially reported, right? It wasn't until the Biden administration found out that there.
No, nobody trusted China fully. Everybody knew that their numbers were fake. Since day one, we all knew that those numbers were fake. I remember looking at China's little graph and comparing it to every other country's reported numbers, and it was like absurd. It was ridiculous. It was so obvious that they were faking those numbers. Painfully obvious. And I realized, like, I know that presidents worry about how this is going to look on them if COVID gets like really, really intensely bad. And that's an incentive for them to lie about the numbers. But it is so important to keep track of the figures so that everybody is like fully aware of how it's spreading and how quickly it's spreading and how to solve the problem and stuff like that.
It wasn't until the Biden administration found out that there was a pro-China bias within the World Health Organization's investigation into it that he ordered his own investigation. And then after that, it turns out that you have all of these mixed signals or signs coming from various intelligence organizations.
I mean, everybody knew literally from day one when we found out about COVID that China was lying about stuff because they had to. I mean, we found out from Chinese people whose family members were sneaking messages to them through their communications app. We found out about all of this because people were like trying to smuggle information through. We knew China was lying. We knew it. Everybody knew it.
Let's go to the other agencies, for instance. 4 other intelligence agencies and the National Intelligence Council have concluded with low confidence that the virus most likely emerged through natural transmission, the director of National Intelligence's office announced in October of 2021.
I'm not sure why we're talking about an intelligence agency anyway. We should be looking to scientists for these answers, right?
And like the low confidence, moderate confidence, who do you trust? Especially given all
I would say scientists, not political actors.
of the other agenda items that both lawmakers and government officials have in mind when it comes to geopolitical issues.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a very self-aggrandizing answer first, and then potentially what you consider a more real answer, right? Look, guys, who can you trust? How about us, right?
No, you're political actors, political commentators. Nobody should trust you. Nobody should trust me. Everybody should be going and looking for their own information to find objective answers. You come to me for opinion, not for objective fact. I'm not a reporter. I'm not beholden to reporting ethics, and most people who are beholden to those ethics don't give a shit anyway. I mean, I do give a shit about reporting ethics, of course, but as a political commentator, that category should not be trusted by default. This betrays a complete misunderstanding of the kind of the political sphere and how and what role the political sphere should play in people's lives. It's just embarrassing that he doesn't seem to understand the differences in different roles and how they should be trusted and how they should be like viewed with skepticism. And he's been doing this for like 12 years or something, right?
When it appeared that all the scientists were saying that it was natural born, we said, my recollection, and you guys, everybody can look it up, and they often do, right?
Well, I mean, scientists are still saying that. You're not looking to scientists with this answer.
Was that, hey, I'm like, all the doctors and scientists are saying that it's natural. Okay, I guess it's natural. And then Wuhan labs, the virology labs in Wuhan, and then it became not unanimous. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That is an unbelievable coincidence.
Not a coincidence. Very intentional. Why they put that lab there?
Coincidence. The virology lab is right next to the outbreak. What were the chances, right?
Yep.
And so, like we said that years ago, right? Under Trump. So
I don't remember what you said, but I'm going to take ownership of what I said, okay? Because I said that there was no evidence of it, right? If I remember,
well, there wasn't.
Remember it correctly, right? I wasn't completely dismissive of it, but we didn't have evidence, and I'm not going to repeat.
You're literally repeating things without evidence right now. That is what you are doing. Nothing has fundamentally changed between now and then. Nothing. There is no evidence.
Theories that we don't have hardcore evidence to back up.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to believe. And when you say trust us, we don't know. We don't know.
No, but that's exactly why you should trust us, because we're not driving an agenda here. We're sharing all of the information that we have filled with uncertainty.
Filled with uncertainty and bias, a ton of bias. Again, bias is okay. I have bias. You have bias. Everybody has bias. This isn't meant to be an objective stream or an objective like YouTube video that I'm releasing. It's meant to be a biased video. You need to come into this understanding that, but you shouldn't go in assuming that I'm providing you with objective facts. I'm providing you with opinion. My God, dude, please, like, how have you been in this game for so long and you're still in the dark about how this works?
When you see people saying in right-wing media, mainstream media, we know, okay? How do you know? Are you a virologist? Did you trace the DNA or whatever of the virus? I don't even know the terms, right? Exactly right. So of course we don't know for sure. We don't have access to those things, that we're not those scientists, and neither is the guy at Fox News or MSNBC, okay? But what we know is things that what we can ascertain together, right? Mm-hmm. It is it seems to me logically, here, I'll give you an example. Remember Mark Sanford, who was governor of South Carolina, goes on the app.
Did we really need an example?
They said he was missing for a while, and they said he was on the Appalachian Trail, and they couldn't reach him because he was hiking for days. And I said, look, I don't know, I'm not next to him.
I think I remember this, and it turned out that he was with a mistress or something, right? They needed him immediately, and he was like sleeping with somebody, and his wife was like found out because of that or something like that. Oh my God, what a mess that was.
But I would be shocked if that were true. That's not, very, very likely it is not true, right? And at the time, it was considered outrageous to say that. A beloved governor says he's on the Appalachian Trail.
What are you talking about? It's outrageous to say?
He must be on the Appalachian Trail.
He was on a trail already.
For sure. Turns out he was in Argentina with his mistress. Okay.
Yeah, right, that's what I thought.
Okay, so in this case, you have the Wuhan virology lab that works on coronaviruses, and a coronavirus outbreak happens right next to it.
Why the fuck, really? Are you so like set on this as the answer that you are not like going to view this with literally any skepticism whatsoever? Why do you think the lab was there?
It's not, it is very likely that it came from the lab, in my opinion. But I'm telling you it's my opinion, and that's called honesty.
So one of the reasons why—
Oh my God, dude, he's just, God, these people are absolutely ridiculous human beings, both of them.
it's been so difficult to determine with great certainty or, just a little more certainty than what we've heard so far is that it seems as though the Chinese officials are making it difficult to research this and investigate this.
No fucking shit. Again, we knew this from the beginning.
In fact, I want to give you a statement from a Chinese foreign ministry spokeswoman. COVID tracing is a scientific issue that should not be politicized, Mao Ning, a Chinese foreign ministry spokeswoman, said of the Energy Department's conclusion.
I absolutely agree. It shouldn't be politicized.
She then repeated calls for the United States to, quote, stop defaming China by raising the lab leak story. Theory. And then this is the part that really gets to me. China also spread conspiracy theories by suggesting COVID may have been a product of US biological weapons programs.
Here, I'll give you two more logical conclusions, guys. So number one, she says, the US is politicizing this. So I see you've learned a trick or two from slimy American politicians, okay? No, you guys the Chinese government is covering up any attempt to investigate where it actually came from, which by the way is another giant clue that it was their fault, right?
Well, no, not really. If it started in the United States, no matter how it started, everybody would blame the United States. I don't actually blame China for COVID at all, not even a little. I blame China for how they reacted when COVID came around. You know what? Even if it were a lab leak, that Wuhan lab where they studied that stuff, that was totally above board. Studying biological stuff the way that China was doing, that's allowed. That's completely legal, and it's necessary to understand how viruses transmit and how we can make vaccines and all of that other stuff. I'm perfectly fine with that. And if it leaked from that lab in that process, I'm fine with that too. I don't blame China. That shit happens sometimes. I blame them for how they reacted when it happened, that's all. And again, it wasn't a lab leak.
And so for her to say that the US is politicizing it, when they've made a political decision to cover up what might be a crime, the original crime scene, is hilarious.
Might be a crime, come on.
Hilarious and obviously hypocritical. Now, was it on purpose? That's another layer, and that I think does.
Why the f would it be on purpose? Why are you even bringing this up? This is all speculative trash. This is like Chuck Todd saying, if this thing happened, what should be the consequences? Why would you even bring it up?
Let's get to, look, whatever you want to call conspiracy theories, right? I'm positive I never called the lab leak a conspiracy theory because I always thought it was logical, okay? So, and please go and find whatever we said about it. We'll own up to anything, and my guess is you're gonna find me saying that at some point in one of the coverages. Anyways, but in terms of actual conspiracy theories, the US and China are like, did the Chinese Communist Party do it on purpose? And the Chinese are like, did the US do it on purpose? Okay, but over about 1 million.
It's all political trash.
Americans died, 700,000 Chinese have died. that would be the worst plan in history. It's not impossible. There's a lot of incompetence in governments, but I don't think anybody did this on purpose. Killing nearly 1 million people in your own country
and hurting your economy
and absolutely pulverizing each other's economies.
Because government officials don't care about human lives. They care about money at the end of the day. They care about their economy at the end of the day. Would they do this on purpose to negatively impact their economy, including the world economy? I doubt it.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Not likely. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So with that said, though, luckily, we have all these competent government officials, members of Congress who are really looking out for our best interests. So they've got a game plan, right? Well, why don't we hear from Republican Senator Dan Sullivan on what the game plan is?
I hope our Democratic colleagues in the Congress can support that. I know the Republicans in the House are certainly supportive of that. But I think if that happens, we need to make sure every country in the world knows this. Look, this is a country that has no problem coming out and lying to the world. We just saw that with this Chinese spy balloon. It's the nature of a communist dictatorship.
Are you kidding me? This dude saying that it's the nature of a communist dictatorship to lie. How can you say that with a straight face after all the lies that the United States government has told? Like, really? That's too on the nose. Is this a joke? Are you joking with this?
To lie to their own people, to lie to the world. But I think that we need to make sure every country knows that and then look at what the consequences could be. Obviously, millions of deaths, huge economic impacts.
Yeah.
And it would once again show that the Chinese Communist Party is not only a menace, but the nature of these regimes is to lie to the world. And we need to make that clear to people.
That's too much.
In other words, there is no plan. He called for hearings because that's what members of Congress do. They just do hearings all day, every day. They do nothing else. Just hearings, just hearings.
Yeah.
So how do you...
Well, what do you expect them to do? They don't have a majority.
How do you confirm the findings of the Energy Department and the FBI? How do you know with great certainty that it was in fact a lab leak? And
You don't.
once you find out, and once you confirm that it is a lab leak, what is the course of action? Because
Nothing. There's no course of action. Put international regulations in place to try to prevent that type of thing in the future and get like the EU to agree to it and everybody else. What point is she trying to make?
I certainly don't want to engage in a hot war with China. That would be a disaster, right? So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for this story, for this issue. And I don't really know what to make of
Literally nothing.
what we're hearing from the Energy Department, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah, look, guys, there's an excellent chance we're not going to find out ever where it actually came from, because both the Chinese and U.S. governments are giant liars. So that's,
Oh my God, dude.
Senator, what a joke. This communist Chinese party has no problem lying to the world. What do you think we do?
Yeah, that's what I said. That's kind of absurd.
George W. Bush, who you loved, said, we would never wiretap American citizens. Then it turns out he was wiretapping American citizens. We would never do torture. They were doing torture.
Absolutely true.
Lie after lie after lie. And it's not just Republicans, Democrats lie all the time too.
But Jake, to be fair, we've never acted on bad intelligence.
I mean, come on, these guys are a goddamn joke. And then Chuck Todd, of course, lets all of that slide as, the beloved United States government and the beloved CIA have never lied. It's absurd, right?
Okay, did Chuck Todd say that? What are you talking about?
Now but on the other hand, the hearings in this case, it's like the only hearing that the Republicans have proposed, which I think makes some degree of sense. Like Hunter Biden's a rando, and whether he did meth or whatever the hell he did, I don't give a damn. But if there's hearings as to where this came from and they look into how this could leak from a lab, that could have some value.
I'm not sure that it could. Like, what value would that have to know that it leaked from a lab versus being specifically intentionally released? I'm not sure that would have any value. I suppose it could be valuable to know if it leaked versus like naturally. Well, I mean, it naturally occurred anyway. It's just if it leaked from a lab, I suppose that would mean that there was an accident and we could put in stronger regulations. I'm just like super confused by this whole thing.
So it's not totally worthless. Hey, that's the best compliment I can give to, especially Republican politicians. But let me end on the thing that I promised you earlier. Look, how do you tell what's right and wrong, right? So I asked Noam Chomsky the same question when I interviewed him once. here on the TYT network. And his answer basically was, look, guys, you look for the facts, you look for the nuggets of indisputable facts, and then ignore everything else, okay? So he's like, the New York Times will put bias into every story, right?
Totally, yeah, absolutely.
And it'll be a pro-status quo, pro-corporate bias. CNN, same, et cetera. Now, you know Fox News, et cetera, MSNBC have their own biases, right? So ignore anything like the Chinese Communist Party. Oh, they're liars, we're honest. Oh,
yeah, it's constant, like, propaganda and lying from these types of people, unfortunately. It's really, really frustrating sometimes to try to get just, like, factual information and, like, you know, you're on the struggle bus just trying to get facts.
Ignore all that garbage and only look at the facts. So in this case, what do we know? We've got 2 US departments, Energy and FBI, saying they think it was a lab leak. We got 4 American departments saying they think it was natural. In other words, we don't know, okay? So you make your own conclusions. Thanks for watching the Young Turks.
Anyway, that's just sad, man. I wish that these people would get their heads out of their asses. That is Cenk and Anna. They just, in my opinion, this is the moment that I realized that they're completely full of shit, both of them. They had no idea what they're talking about, and they don't know basic journalistic practice of, you know, having skepticism and stuff. This isn't even like a way of viewing the world like an atheist has skepticism. No, this is like a requirement if you want to be in the field of journalism. And Anna calls herself a journalist incorrectly. She's not. She's a political commentator. But you're going to call yourself a journalist, exercise a little skepticism, please. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Just absurd.